Just gonna wait here for more people to come and join. But what's up, everybody? My name is Andrew Cover. I am a 28-year-old person, kid, if you will, from Washington, D.C. And I took this picture right here. This is, I took that at the Netherlands Carillon in Arlington, right outside of DC. But go ahead and load up Microsoft Visual Studio. While we wait for more people to show up. And if you're watching, please go and share my live stream on your social medias, so more people can watch, because I'm selfish. All right, so let's get started. First thing that everybody needs to know, we're going to be programming a simple console-based application. It's going to show you, or it's going to calculate how it's going to calculate interest over time, compounded over time, and for that we're going to be using this formula right here. It's really important to understand the formula beforehand before you go and program anything. So to really grasp programming in general, you need to fully understand how you really need to lay out your logic, basically. So a great way to practice flowcharting is writing programs that come from a formula. So this is the formula for compound interest, including your principal, which is the amount you're gonna your initial amount that you want to pay over time. Now, the best way to really flowchart, or the best way to come up with this is you want to brainstorm how you want the logic portion of your program to go down, basically. So the best thing to do is flowchart it, or come up with some sort of written or drawn method of communicating the logic, working out the logic of the program. So again, a formula is great for this because you already have the order of operations set for you. You know that you got to work with these parentheses first, and then you can work on the exponent, and of course, multiplication and division come first before you add to that. So, what we'll do is we'll start with the actual logic, where first thing, and we can plan this out as we go in Visual Studio. And this isn't going to be a Windows Form tutorial. I'm going to be doing this in this is going to be a console-based application, simply to show you the programming aspect. It's really easy to create a Windows Form version as well. But for the most part, any real programming, you're not doing programming, and unless you're designing Windows applications, of course, because you're a Windows application developer, that's something completely different. But working with GUIs is actually not that difficult. You want to learn your programming first before you start really messing around with GUI interfaces. And of course, you can design them, but it's incredibly simple to design and work with GUI interfaces. There are some slight differences that you need to keep an eye out for, but other than that, it's fairly simple to work with. So we'll call this project Compound Interest V1, in case V.1. In case we make another one later, because I fucked up like last night. And hit enter. Let it create. And the software will be grabbing everything. The user is going to be inputting everything into the formula. So it'll be important that you know that, because that's how it'll work. So let's go back to our formula. And it's important we understand how this works. So you have P, the principal, which is the debt owed. Then you have, the amount. Ultimately, what you want to get is the amount. Then you have time, and then N is going to be the number of times per year, obviously. That interest is going to be compounded, so it's usually going to be 12, and T is going to be a year usually, and it'll be over R, which is your interest rate, plus 1. So let's go to a drawing board. So we're going to want to do let's say we take out $5,000. I know, I have such beautiful handwriting, ladies and gentlemen. You know what? I got a better idea. Oh wait, no, I don't have the drivers installed. We'll just do it in Microsoft Word. So that way you guys can read my nasty ass handwriting. Or you won't have to deal with my nasty ass handwriting. Touche. And it'll look much better this way too. Okay, you can still pick me up. I'm not facing the mic, that's good. So let's say we have a $5,000 loan, and let's say we have a shitty bank and they're charging 12% interest. Good thing we have spell check. And the bank sucks. And they're doing 12% interest because of a $5,000 loan. Maybe it's a cash advance type of place. Who cares? For the sake of the example. And then we have and they want that money back within, let's say, 2 years. And they're going to be compounding interest once a month. So we have a $5,000 principal with 12% interest. And it's got to be paid back in 2 years, otherwise they come and kill you and cut your nuts off, because that's how they roll. Do we need anything else? No, that should be it. And the answer we want: 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, yeah. And the answer, and of course we want to figure out the amount. Figure out the amount you have to pay every month in order to pay the entire debt off plus the interest on time. So, okay. This is where things get interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and define our variables. We're going to do an integer for time. Well, first we have to do, let's do this, let's right line. First we'll do what's called a right line method. We're going to ask the user to enter principal amount. And this isn't working for some reason. And why is my compiler being a dick? I'm trying to figure that out. Whatever. And no, it still doesn't want to work because it's a piece of shit. That's fine. Let's go ahead and look it up in the book then, if you want to be a dick about it. I still don't understand why it's not working. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to, but no, 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 no. But no, 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 no. There you go, all the way back to chapter 1. Figure out why I can't write a fucking line. Oh, console.writeLine. Okay, that's why. Alright, so back to remembering what I was supposed to be doing and doing it right, you know. So great, we just killed a half hour trying to figure out how to do something basic. Awesome. Alright, so what this line does is it outputs a line saying enter principal amount. And then what we'll do is we'll do integer. It could be a decimal, so we'll just do decimal. And we'll convert it to a decimal, and then of course we have to write console.read line, and then we have to figure out why this isn't working. There we go. So great, now we got a, let's see what we got. Awesome, we got a program that runs, bitchin'. It says enter principal amount. Alright, let's do 5123. And it terminates, perfect, because we didn't tell it to do anything else. So, next thing we'll do is we will add console right line, enter interest. Amount. The next thing we'll do is we'll define another decimal. We'll call it interest. Interest equals convert dot to decimal console dot read line. There, and now what that little bit of code does is it adds it takes what the user entered as interest and saves it as a variable called interest. So the next thing we need to do is we'll do another decimal. Notice a trend here. Do time equals. Alright. First off, let's do another console right line. Enter how many years to pay off loan. And then time, we will do again convert dot to decimal console dot read line method. I'll do that. What this will do is it'll take the time value and convert it to a decimal and save it as a variable called time. And so that's 3 of the 4 pieces that we need. The last thing we need is, let's take a look back here. What else do we need? In fact, let's go to our Word document. So we have our principal, we have our interest rate in 2 years, and then we need, oh, that's right, it compounds every month. So we'll do one more console dot write line, enter how many times a year interest is compounded. Helps if I spell right too. You always want to save as often as you can. It'll save you a lot of trouble. Sorry. And the next thing we will do is we will go ahead and we will share this on social media, because that's how you get people to watch. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is, now that we need to make one more decimal. We'll call this comp, short for compound. And then we'll do an equals, and then of course the ever infamous convert dot to decimal. Oh, now we don't need quotes. Then we'll do console dot read line method. So now this is where the planning and everything comes into play, because now that we have all the variables taken into account, we have to figure out, we have to go ahead and calculate everything. We have to go and calculate everything. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll convert the percent, because it's usually going to be in a whole number. We're going to convert that to a decimal, which is what it's supposed to be, so 12 out of 100. Or basically we're going to do decimal turn that and call it rate, and then we'll do interest divided by 100, and that's that. That's the perfect part. Cool. So that's converting the percent whole number into an actual decimal, because that's how we'll be using it in this formula right here. So the next thing we'll have to do is we'll go ahead and do r over n. We'll create a variable that does r over n, so that's usually going to be time in here, the number of times compounded in here. So it's also going to be 12 according to this, but we'll call it T for short. We'll do rate over comp. And the next thing we'll do is we just have to add 1 to it. That's the easy part. So then we'll call this parentheses, because that's what's going to be in the parentheses. We'll go ahead and name this last decimal P for parentheses, and then we'll do T plus 1. Cool. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using variables to figure out, I'm using variables to control the order of operations according to this formula. You know, again, this is where you need to understand the order of logic and the order of things to properly calculate everything. Otherwise, if you do everything out of order, like, you won't get the right answer. So the next thing is, so what do we do here? Which comes first? Do we do the exponent or do we do the principal? Well, order operations tells me to do the exponent first. So basically we have to do, the way we'll set that up is we have to multiply the compounded number of times compounded per year times the number of years you have to pay off. So let's go ahead and we'll do and we'll just call it exponent. And the other thing you need to know, which we'll cover a little more later, is you can't really do an exponent in C#. However, if you have .NET Framework installed, you can using a method. And I'll show you that method in a second. But first, let's go ahead and calculate that whole exponent. So basically, it's n times time, or number of times compounded per year, time number of times compounded interest per month in a year. So we're going to be compounding 12 compounding once a month in a year. And that's, in other words, we're going to be compounding 24 times according to this. But we're setting this up so that way the user will be entering all that information and it'll be right, of course. So we do comp times time. And that's as simple as pi. Haha. And then the next thing we do, this is where the exponent part I was talking about comes into play. So let's go ahead, let's pull this back up because we're going to drag this tab into it. You have the math power method, and that's basically saying, okay, number one, the first number you punch here, you put right here, is going to be the number that you want the exponent to work with. So for example, if we're trying to do 3 squared, we would put the number 3 here, and then we would put the exponent, or the number 2, here, and then this would calculate 9. Now if we were trying to do 3 cubed, we would put the 3 here, and then we would put the exponent 3 here as well, and that would calculate 27, and so on and so forth. So if we were trying to do 10 squared, we would put a 10 here, and then we would put a 2 here. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a variable that takes care of everything inside the parentheses, which we already have. That's the beauty of it. It's called p. So now what we need to do is we'll do another decimal, and we'll call this expo calc. And then this will be the mathpow method I was talking about. So we'll do mathpow p, comma, exponent. No? Oh. That's why, because I forgot to do math dot to math.pow. Right? Yeah, math.pow, number 1, number 2. Okay. So we're having some issues here. It's always going to be encountered. That's why you got to problem solve along with it. So we'll convert that to a double apparently, but not the exponent. You know what? Let's just go ahead and do this. It's not going to be what we'll do is we'll go ahead and convert some of these to kill this message real quick. Alright, P is a pain in my ass. Ha ha. And we'll change that to an integer as well, int. Yeah, I'll make you a double. Hey, look at that. That made it happy. That made it happy. So then the very last thing we'll do is, not the very last thing we do, but, so then we have that. The next thing we have to do is, let's go back and take a look at the formula. Multiply it times the principal. That's easy as fuck. Shit. So then what we have to do is we do double result equals expo calc times principal. And we don't even need to make the principal, we can make that an integer. Because then we have to go back and fix that. And then all we gotta do is output the amount you gotta pay every month. So then we do write dot line, whoops, console dot write line, and then we do the amount owed every month to be paid off in We'll enter the time value to be paid off in time. Another quote is convert dot to string result. Okay. Oh, we forgot the comma. So the other thing we forgot is the comma. Gotta remember the comma. Always gotta add your commas. Because you gotta think of it kind of like a pause. So what we're doing, so what this very last line we did is it's basically outputting in one line amount mode every month to be paid off in blank time. So it makes a little more sense in the English language. Years is blank. And then we can go ahead and put a dollar sign as well. Oops. It's not the shift button, is it? Is it? Alright, so let's test it. Enter principal amount. Okay, so our principal amount is 5,123. Enter. Interest amount is 12%. Enter. Enter how many years to pay off the loan? 2. Enter. How many? 12. And of course we can't check it because let's do it one more time. Debug. Start without debugging. Okay. 25. 5,000. 5,123. Enter. Interest is 12% interest. How many years to pay off loan? 2 years. And it's compounded 12 times a year. So the amount owed up So that means we have an error with we have an issue. That means our numbers aren't working. So that also makes me want to understand how So that means something's wrong with the math and something's wrong with these data types. What, I don't know at the moment, but we will figure that out. So let me go back to here. Or not. We could also use a loop. I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier. The only issue is I don't know. Well, here's a way we can debug for one. Simple process we can do is click that. Click anywhere along here and it selects a line. Next thing we do is we go to debug, start debugging. Now it runs the program. Right now this is the line that we're at. Wow, we're already using actually a lot of RAM anyways for that. What's up, John? I did not know you were here. Anyways, what this does is, we're in debugging mode, and you have these buttons up here, and this is skip into, step over, step out, and this shows next statement. So we'll execute this. We'll go ahead and restart. We messed up. F5. So the very first thing we see is that. So step into, we'll step into. And then it reads the line. So enter principal amount. We'll do 5,000. So 5,000 is our principal amount, and it's converted to an integer of 32, which is good. The next thing we'll do is we'll step into again, F11, and then now it's going to ask for the interest rate. It's going to be 12. So we'll step into and then we'll hit F11 again. And we'll enter the number of years to pay off the loan, so it's 2 years. I'll hit F11 one more time. So basically, as you can see, what I'm doing is the debugging process that I'm doing, and it only works if you click this little bar right here. It allows you to go step by step by step down your code and analyze and figure out what the issues are. And then it really only works if you have the autos pulled up here. So then I hit enter, and now it moves down to the next line. Which is a right line. It's getting ready to do that, so we're going to execute this line of code now. how many times it would be 12. And then we'll hit enter. So now those are the values we have. Rate is 0 still, all that is 0. So that might be where some of the issues are. But anyways, we'll move on. We'll hit F11. So it divided my rate, my interest into the rate, made it 100. Still nothing happened. And now t, time, has become, the rate has become 0.1, an integer, and that's the problem right there, is that it needs to be a decimal. So it's only reading as 0.01, which is an issue. So we'll step into again, and time and all that is still there, but you know, that's basically the problem, is our data types aren't defined right. So I got to go back in and figure out why, how to properly define my data types. So let's go to F11, see what else it does. Exponent calc, okay. It's 24. Oh, equals 0, so that's the problem. P times. So P equals 1, and exponent equals 24. So 24 times 1 is still not coming up with the right amount. Okay. So part of it is we need to use a loop to do my exponent as opposed to using MathPal. And then the last issue we have is result equals 0 because everything is screwed up from the very beginning, so that's the problem. Then it regurgitates the information improperly. So nothing is outputted at all. Even though that was right. So that's basically a good way to figure out how to debug, and tomorrow we'll go over how to fix all this stuff, because right now I am kind of tired. Thank you for watching, everybody. Peace.